For more here, let's bring in Tobin Marcus. He's head of U.S. policy and politics at Wolfe Research. Tobin, what were the headlines for you? Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I would say he arguably pushed back the applicability date of the Mexico and Canada tariffs to April 2nd. Clearly, April 2nd is the date where he's intending to do a big tariff rollout. That's what they pegged for the reciprocal tariff policy that they've proposed globally, which could lead to very, very high rates in line with the 25% that he talked about on the EU if they're throwing in value-added taxes along with actual reciprocal tariffs. On the question of Canada and Mexico, it is still the case that the executive orders he signed snap back into effect after this 30-day delay next week on March 4th if he doesn't do something in the meantime. Lutnick kind of jumped in after he said April 2nd to say, they do need to satisfy the president that they've made progress, and Trump said that it won't be easy to satisfy him. So even though he's focused on the second, it's not totally obvious to me that he's going to be willing to say next week, actually, they've done enough for me to give them another delay.
Well, okay, that's interesting because, we watch some of the most sensitive stocks. I don't see a lot of movement. I think everyone's kind of in a holding pattern.
Yeah, in general, I have been finding in conversations with institutional investors that people are kind of throwing their hands up on tariffs. There has been so much noise, so many conflicting signals and different overlapping threats, both sectorally and country by country, that I think a lot of investors are in wait-and-see mode, and they're just going to have to react when they actually see him do something firm.
Yeah, Aptiv down 1% today. They have big supply base in Mexico, although they're well off the 52-week high. More broadly, Tobin, the House actually managed to pass the budget bill last night, which surprised a lot of people. They have a very, very thin margin. They only lost Massey on it. What does that tell you? And do you think the Senate will go along?
So I think the Senate is going to have to take a lot of the House parameters. I certainly don't think that they are going to just pick up the House budget resolution and pass it totally unchanged. They've been clear that they want to make changes. But my view has always been the House is the biggest bottleneck here, given those narrow margins you mentioned. Whatever they can agree on, it's going to be hard to get that far away from that because that's the thing that sort of shows that conservatives and moderates can align. But they've, I think, punted a lot of the tough questions into the future. There's a ton of focus on this $880 billion number for Medicaid. Conservatives have been very focused on that. They're pushing hard to get a high number. Moderates very concerned. I think they're clearly hoping that will be bargained down later in the process. So I don't think that there's been a complete meeting of the minds about what the actual final bill is going to look like. Yeah,
still a more positive step for those, and the negative reaction is in the Medicaid space today. Those exposed stocks are down 5-6% this morning.
Yeah, look, I have always believed that they would need to do significant cuts to a variety of programs, but with Medicaid being one of the biggest sources of money to make this bill happen, I thought that conservatives would be able to push for that, given the leverage they have in this narrowly divided House. So, we figured that the House process would probably kind of succeed because it had to, that they would vote for something because that's the alternative is unacceptable. And, they got moderates for now to go along with a very high number. So I think that some level of negative reaction, based on how much skepticism there was from some other commentators about the likelihood they get this bill, voted on at all, does make sense.
Trump in the cabinet meeting again ruled out Medicaid cuts, which I thought was interesting. I'm on, email list for local healthcare groups, and there's Medicaid rallies already being formed. It's a hugely galvanizing issue. Quickly, a new topic, giving people a gold card. Take a listen to what Trump said about that.
These companies can go and buy a gold card, and they can use it as a matter of recruitment. At the same time, the company is using that money to pay down debt. We're going to pay down a lot of debt with that.
$5 million, maybe corporate America foots the bill. Tobin, what do you think?
So, I think that a traditional understanding would suggest that Congress needs to take action on this, that it's not something the president can do through executive fiat, although he seems to be proposing to do it unilaterally. We'll see what ends up happening there. Conceivably, they could try and put this into the reconciliation bill, although it's an open question whether or not the budgetary effects are merely incidental, which is the threshold for whether or not policy steps can be done through reconciliation. It's an idea that makes a lot of sense for Trump. He's always been much more favorable to high-skilled immigration than to low-skilled immigration and to immigration from, better off countries than worse off countries.
Yeah.
So, I think very much in line with his thinking. There are some international analogs. It is not a totally unprecedented or off-the-wall idea, but it's certainly a new one. So I think it remains to be seen how Congress reacts.